Daughter abandons 83-year-old mother in the countryside. But she taught a real lesson. Eleanor Jenkins clutched her purse tightly as she watched the red car disappear down the dirt road. Her daughter didn't even glance in the rearview mirror. The dust kicked up by the tires still hung in the air when the silence of the countryside completely enveloped the 83-year-old woman. "Mom, you're going to stay here for a while," Jennifer had said just 2 hours earlier without removing her sunglasses. "I need to sell the apartment. I have business debts that can't wait." Eleanor barely had time to process the information. Her daughter had already brought 3 boxes of clothes and left groceries in the kitchen. 2 weeks' worth of food, she said. Maybe 3 if her mother rationed. "And you? Where will you stay?" asked Eleanor, still trying to understand what was happening. "I'll stay at the office. I have a sofa bed there. It's temporary, Mom. Just until I sort everything out." The exposed brick house was smaller than Eleanor remembered. It had been years since she'd returned to that property inherited from her husband. Richard had died nearly a decade ago, and since then the place had been abandoned. Some wooden fences were broken. Tall grass covered what was once a small garden. Jennifer walked through the house with quick steps, checking for water and electricity. She turned on faucets, tested switches. Her yellow suit contrasted with the rustic surroundings. She was a woman accustomed to boardrooms, not country houses. "Everything's working. The neighbor next door, Mr. Wilson, said he can help if you need anything," she informed, already picking up her bag. "I'll call every day, I promise." "Jennifer, wait." Eleanor tried to hold her daughter's arm. "Can we talk about this? Maybe there's another solution." "There isn't, Mom." Her voice came out sharp. "Either I sell the apartment or I lose everything. The business is hanging by a thread. I worked 15 years to build this. I won't let it collapse now." "But leaving me here alone is the solution." Jennifer took a deep breath, as if making a monumental effort to remain calm. "You've lived your whole life without needing to work, taken care of by Daddy. Now I need you to let me handle my life. It's just a few weeks. A month at most." The words hurt more than the abandonment itself. Eleanor felt a tightness in her chest, but didn't respond. She watched her daughter get in the car, start the engine. Jennifer waved from the window before accelerating. And that's how Eleanor found herself alone in that house, holding so many memories. Memories Jennifer never wanted to hear. The first night was the hardest. Eleanor sat on the wooden porch and looked at the starry sky. There was no light pollution there. The stars shone intensely, just as she remembered from her youth. Before Richard, before New York City, before everything. The phone rang at 9 in the evening. "Mom, is everything okay?" Jennifer's voice sounded distant. "Yes, dear." "Great. I need to go. I have a meeting early tomorrow. Call me if you need anything." The call lasted less than a minute. Eleanor prepared some lemon balm tea she found in the cupboard. It had probably been there since their last visit years ago. She sat on the bed and tried to read an old book she found on the shelf, but the words danced on the page. Her mind was elsewhere. She thought about how she'd ended up there. Jennifer was right about one thing: Richard had always provided everything. But did that mean she hadn't lived, hadn't built anything? Eleanor closed the book harder than she intended. The next day she woke to roosters crowing. It was 5:30 in the morning. It had been decades since she'd woken that early without an alarm clock. She got up, made coffee, and went out to explore the property. The morning light revealed details that yesterday's rush had hidden. The house was simple but had potential. The surrounding land was extensive. It must have been about 3/4 of an acre. Mostly overgrown with weeds, but still, it was good land. "Good morning, Mrs. Eleanor." A voice interrupted her thoughts. It was a man about 60 years old with graying hair and a plaid shirt. He was walking along the road. "Mr. Wilson?" She recognized the neighbor Jennifer had mentioned. "That's right, I saw you arrived yesterday. Are you here for a few days?" Eleanor hesitated. How could she explain that her daughter had left her there like discarding an inconvenient object? "I'll be staying for a while. The house needed some care. If you need any help, just call. My wife, Mrs. Susan, already said she'll bring a cake this afternoon. She loves having company around." The stranger's kindness almost made Eleanor cry. She thanked him and went back inside. She spent the day organizing the house. She cleaned cabinets, swept corners, opened windows. The physical work was tiring, but there was something therapeutic about it. Each cleaned corner seemed to clear away a little of the sorrow she felt. In the afternoon, Mrs. Susan appeared as promised. She was a cheerful lady, about 70 years old, who brought not only a cake but also homemade bread and jam. "I made too much today. It'll go bad if not eaten soon," she lied politely. The two chatted on the porch. Susan talked about life in the countryside, about her children who lived in the city and rarely visited. She spoke about how she and Wilson made a living with a small vegetable garden and selling eggs. "Life here is simple, but it has its advantages," said Susan. "At least we don't struggle with rent and sky-high utility bills." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Eleanor took a bite of the cake. It was delicious, moist, with an authentic taste of cornmeal and fennel. "This cake is wonderful, Susan. Oh, it's my grandmother's recipe. I learned to make it when I was a girl." When Susan left, Eleanor kept thinking. She also had family recipes. Recipes she had learned from her mother, from her grandmother. Special sweets she used to make when Jennifer was little. When was the last time she had prepared something like that? That night, Jennifer called again. "Mum, how was your day?" "Quiet. I met the neighbors." "That's good. Look, I've been thinking. It might take a little longer than I imagined. The apartment is hard to sell. The market is complicated." "How long, Jennifer?" Silence on the other end. "I don't know exactly, maybe 2 months? But I'll send money for you to buy groceries. Is there a small store nearby?" "Yes, there is." "Perfect, I have to go, Mum. Good night." 2 months. Eleanor hung up the phone and sat on the bed. 2 weeks had become 2 months, and they would probably become more. She knew her daughter well enough to know that when Jennifer said maybe, it meant definitely. Anger came first, then sadness. Finally, a strange acceptance. She was there, alone, with no one to depend on except herself, for the first time in decades. The next morning, Eleanor woke up with a different determination. If she was going to stay there, she would make it worthwhile. She started by exploring every corner of the property. In the back, she found an old shed that Richard used as a storage space. The door creaked as she opened it. Inside, covered in dust, were objects from the past. Tools, boxes, old furniture. And then she saw it. The copper pot that had belonged to her mother. The same pot where she had learned to make dulce de leche, guava paste, quince jam. She picked up the pot carefully. It was heavy, solid. It would need a good cleaning, but it was intact. Next to it, she found other utensils, wooden spoons, molds, sieves. An idea began to form in her mind. That afternoon, she went to the small store in the village. It was a small establishment that sold a little bit of everything. The owner, a woman named Deborah, greeted her with curiosity. "Are you new around here?" "I'm Mrs. Eleanor. I'm at the old Jenkins property." "Oh, yes. I knew your husband. Good man, you're Richard. I'm sorry for your loss." Eleanor thanked her and started picking out ingredients. Sugar, milk, fruits. Deborah watched, intrigued. "Going to make sweets?" "I'll try. It's been a while since I made any." "If it turns out good, let me know. Here we sell some local products. Bread, cheese, things like that. Good sweets are always in demand." The suggestion echoed in Eleanor's head as she walked back home. Selling sweets. Why not? She needed to occupy her time with something, and the money Jennifer sent was little, barely enough for basics. She spent the rest of the day cleaning the copper pot and other utensils. When she finished, it was already night. She had a simple soup for dinner and went to bed planning the next day. She woke up excited. It had been years since she felt that good anxiety, like someone about to do something important. She gathered the ingredients, lit the wood stove in the backyard, and began. The first batch was dulce de leche. She stirred the pot with movements her body remembered, even if her mind had forgotten. The sweet smell filled the kitchen, then the whole house, then the backyard. Susan appeared, drawn by the aroma. "Wow, what a wonderful smell." I'm making dulce de leche. Can I see? Eleanor showed her the pot. The sweet was at the perfect stage, creamy and shiny. Mrs. Eleanor, how long has it been since you made this? About 30 years, maybe. My mother taught me when I was young. It looks like you never stopped. When the sweet cooled, Eleanor tasted it. It was perfect, exactly as she remembered. She set aside a jar for Susan, another for Mr. Wilson. You didn't have to, Susan protested, but took it happily. The next day, Susan returned with the empty jar and an unexpected request. My sister tried it and wants to know if you sell it. She has a snack bar in the city, said she's never had dulce de leche this good. Eleanor was speechless for a moment. Sell? I haven't really thought about it. Think about it. My sister pays well. And look, there's the farmer's market every Saturday. You could take it to sell there too. The idea that was once just a vague thought began to take real shape. Eleanor calculated mentally. She had enough ingredients to make more batches. The pot was big. She could produce a lot. Let me think about it more, she replied. But she had already decided. She spent the next few days producing dulce de leche, guava paste, quince jam, coconut candy, recipes that came from her hands as if they had a life of their own. Each sweet packaged in glass jars she got from Deborah. On Saturday she woke up before sunrise. She arranged the sweets in boxes and hitched a ride with Mr. Wilson, who was going to the market to sell eggs. The market was colourful and noisy, people selling everything, fruits, vegetables, clothes, tools. Eleanor got a small borrowed space at Mr. Wilson's stall. Homemade sweets, made with family recipes, she announced, shy at first. The first customer was a lady who tried the dulce de leche and widened her eyes. How much is it? Eleanor stated the price she had calculated. The woman bought 3 jars. In 2 hours, she had sold everything. Absolutely everything. People came back to buy more. They asked for different recipes. They placed orders. Mr. Wilson laughed, impressed. Mrs. Eleanor, you have a special talent. These sweets are a hit. Eleanor returned home with the money in her bag and a strange feeling in her chest. It was pride. How long had it been since she felt proud of herself? Jennifer called that night. Mom, how are things? Good, dear, very good. That's great. I transferred more money today. Let me know if you need anything. Eleanor looked at the money she had earned at the market. It was almost double what Jennifer had sent. Thank you, dear. She didn't tell her about the sweets. She didn't know why. Maybe she wanted to keep it to herself for now. That small success was hers, only hers. The following weeks were intense. Eleanor established a routine, waking up early, preparing sweets, selling at the farmer's market on Saturdays. Susan's sister became a regular customer at the snack bar. Other merchants started placing orders. She needed to expand production. With the money she earned, she bought more ingredients, more jars. She adapted part of the shed as a production space. Mr. Wilson helped fix a few things. Susan began helping with packaging. In return, Eleanor shared the profits. 1 month after being left alone, Eleanor had completely transformed the house. What was neglect became organization. What was loneliness became community. Neighbors stopped by to chat, to help, to buy sweets. But Jennifer knew nothing about it. The calls remained brief, superficial, the daughter always too busy for deep questions. Until one Tuesday, Susan arrived agitated. Mrs. Eleanor, my niece posted a picture of your sweets on social media. It's going viral. Vera, what? Viral? Lots of people seeing it, sharing it. Look here. Susan showed her phone. Indeed, there was a picture of her jars of sweets with hundreds of likes and comments. People tagging friends, asking where to buy. Is that good? Eleanor didn't quite understand that digital world. Very good. It means more people will want your sweets. And indeed, people from other cities started showing up. They called Deborah at the small store, asking how to place orders. The demand grew so much that Eleanor could barely keep up. That's when Jennifer saw it. It was Thursday evening when the phone rang, but this time her daughter's voice wasn't hurried. It was furious. Mother, what is the meaning of this? What, daughter? These pictures on social media, you selling sweets at the farmer's market. Is this some kind of joke? Eleanor felt her heart race. It's not a joke, it's my work. Work? Jennifer's voice rose an octave. You're 83 years old. You don't need to work, and certainly not selling things at the market like an ordinary person, Eleanor completed, feeling anger rise. This is humiliating. I have a professional reputation to uphold. People will think I don't take care of my own mother. And do you, Jennifer? The words came out before she could think better. Heavy silence on the other side. You left me here alone without asking if I wanted it, sent crumbs of money thinking you were doing me a favor. So I decided to take care of myself, and you know what I discovered? That I'm capable, very capable. Mother, I'm not finished. These sweets you find humiliating, they're bringing in more profit than the money you send. I have orders for the next 3 weeks. Merchants from the city are seeking me out. And you know the best part? I feel alive for the first time in years. Jennifer took a while to respond. How much are you making? The question made Eleanor laugh without joy. Is that what matters to you? The money? It's a valid question. Valid? Eleanor felt tears of anger. Your only concern is whether I'm making money or tarnishing your precious image. You don't ask if I'm okay. If I'm healthy. If I don't feel lonely. I call every day. You call to go through the motions. We talk for a minute. You don't even listen when I speak. Another pause. I have to go, Mother. We'll talk when you're calmer. The call ended. Eleanor stared at the phone. Her hands were shaking, not from fear or sadness, from anger, an old, stored-up anger that had finally found its voice. Susan, who was helping in the kitchen, touched her shoulder gently. Are you all right, Mrs. Eleanor? I don't know, Susan. I don't know anymore. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the conversation with Jennifer, thinking about all the years of silence, of swallowing words, of accepting the role assigned to her. The mother who doesn't question, who doesn't bother, who stays in the background. When she finally fell asleep, she dreamed of her own mother, Mrs. Ruth, who had passed away 30 years earlier. In the dream, she was making caramel in the same copper pot. You took your time, my daughter, Ruth said with a smile, but you found your way. She woke up with tears on her face and a certainty in her heart. The following days were filled with intense work. Eleanor channeled all her emotions into production. Each sweet carried a bit of her story, a bit of her pain, a bit of her newfound strength. The orders didn't stop. A handmade goods store from the capital got in touch. They wanted to sell her sweets. A proposal for a monthly supply, amounts that made Eleanor check 3 times if she had understood correctly. But accepting meant expanding production significantly. She would need help, equipment, space. She talked to Susan and Mr. Wilson. Both offered to work with her. Other neighbors also showed interest. Suddenly that small informal business could become something serious. It was Deborah from the small store who suggested, Mrs. Eleanor, you need to formalize this. Open a small company. It's risky to sell without registration when production grows. Eleanor knew Deborah was right, but how to do it? She barely knew how to use a computer, documents, papers, bureaucracy. It was an unknown world. I can ask my son to help. He understands these things, Deborah offered. And so 2 weeks later, Eleanor had an EIN, a registered micro-enterprise. Grandma Ruth's Sweets. She chose the name in honor of her mother. The business was growing, and Jennifer still knew nothing about it. The calls had become even more spaced out after the argument. When they happened, they were cold, formal. Until one Friday, 2 months after being left in the countryside, Eleanor had a surprise. She was in the kitchen when she heard a car stopping in front of the house. She looked out the window and froze. It was Jennifer's red car. Her daughter got out wearing another suit, this time grey. But the expression on her face was the same. Tense, worried, distant. Eleanor wiped her hands on her apron and went to the door. Jennifer, what a surprise. We need to talk, Mother. There was no hug, no kiss. Jennifer entered the house looking around carefully. She noticed the changes, the cleanliness, the organization, the new equipment in the kitchen. You renovated. I adapted it for production. Jennifer went to the living room. She sat on the sofa without taking off her high heels. Eleanor sat across from her, waiting. I came because... Jennifer paused, choosing her words. Because I heard you got a contract with a store in the capital. Of course. It was about business. It was always about business. Yes, I did. Mother, I don't think it's a good idea. You're 83 years old. This is too much work. What if something happens, if you get sick? I have help. People from the village work with me. Jennifer shook her head. That's not how things work. You have no experience with management, suppliers, contracts. You could end up hurting yourself. Or it could work out. Mother, be realistic. Eleanor took a deep breath. Realistic? Let me tell you what's realistic, Jennifer. Realistic was you abandoning me here 2 months ago. Realistic was me having to manage on my own. Realistic is me building a business from scratch while you barely called to see if I was alive. I called every day. 1 minute. If that. You never asked how my days were, what I was doing. If I needed anything besides money, Jennifer stood up, agitated. I was sorting out my life. You have no idea what I went through these months. The company almost went bankrupt. I had to fire people, renegotiate debts. It was a nightmare. And you think my months were easy? Eleanor also stood up. Waking up alone every day in a house that hadn't been mine for years? Learning to manage without anyone for the first time in my life? But you chose this. Nobody told you to start a business. I had no choice. The money you sent was barely enough to eat. I had to do something. The two stared at each other. Jennifer looked away first. How much are you making? She asked more quietly. Eleanor sat down again. She told her the monthly amount she had been making. Jennifer's eyes widened. That's serious. Yes. Jennifer sat back down. She stayed silent for a moment, clearly processing the information. Mom, I have a proposal. I imagine you do. We can turn this into something bigger, much bigger. I understand business, marketing, distribution. You have the product. Together we could... No. The word came out firm, definitive. Jennifer blinked, confused. No. What do you mean, no? I don't want your help, not the way you're offering it. But Mom, be reasonable. I know what I'm doing. I have 15 years of business experience. You, with all due respect, know nothing about management. I know enough, and I'm learning the rest, and that's foolish pride. I'm trying to help. Eleanor stood up and went to the window. Outside, Susan was crossing the yard, carrying more clean jars. She waved at Eleanor with a smile. You know what's funny, Jennifer, she said without turning around. You show up here after 2 months, not because you were worried about me, not because you missed me, but because you found out I'm making money. That's not how it is. That's exactly how it is. If I were here doing crochet, spending my days watching television, you wouldn't have even come. But now that there's profit involved, suddenly I'm interesting. Jennifer stayed silent. You're being unfair, she said finally, her voice trembling. Eleanor turned to face her. Unfair? Me, who raised you alone after your father got sick. Me, who gave up everything to take care of both of you. I'm the unfair one? What are you talking about? Your father got sick when you were 10. He couldn't work anymore. You don't remember because I never let you know. I worked making sweets, selling door to door to keep the bills paid, to keep you in the private school he wanted so much. Jennifer turned pale. I didn't know. Of course you didn't know, because when your father got better and went back to work, we decided never to tell. He had pride. He didn't want you to know that it had been me supporting the house those years. Mom. And after he died, you said I had done nothing in life. That I had been supported. That I didn't know what work was. Tears started to stream down Eleanor's face, but she didn't wipe them away. You built your company on what, Jennifer? On the money left over when we sold the house after your father's passing. Money I could have used for myself, but I gave it all to you because I believed in your dream. Jennifer had tears in her eyes now too. I didn't know. Why did you never tell me? Because a mother doesn't tell these things expecting recognition. She does it because she loves, but you didn't even ask where the money came from. You just accepted it as if it were your right. The silence that followed was heavy, loaded with years of unspoken words. Jennifer wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I'm sorry, Mom. Truly. Your apology doesn't change anything now. What do you want then? Eleanor thought carefully before answering. I want you to leave. Go back to New York City. Take care of your company. I'll take care of mine. But, Mom, and when you're ready to have a real conversation, when you're ready to see me as a person, not as your inconvenient mother or as a business opportunity, then you can come back. Jennifer stood still, processing the words. You're sending me away. I'm giving you space to think, for you and for me. Jennifer slowly picked up her purse. She walked to the door, stopped, turned around. I've always loved you, Mom, even if I didn't show it properly. I know, daughter, but love without respect isn't enough. Eleanor watched the red car drive away again on the dirt road, but this time was different. This time she wasn't being abandoned. She was choosing. Susan appeared minutes later. I saw your daughter leaving. Is everything okay? Everything is. For the first time in a long time, everything is okay. The following weeks were a time of rapid growth. The contract with the store in the capital city was finalized. Eleanor needed to hire 3 more people from the village. The small business turned into a mini factory of handmade sweets. Deborah helped with the administrative part. Mr. Wilson with logistics. Susan with production. Each had their role. And Eleanor coordinated everything with a skill that surprised even herself. She discovered she enjoyed making decisions, planning, solving problems. All those decades watching Richard work hadn't been in vain. She had absorbed more than she realized. An investor from a neighboring town appeared, interested in expanding production. He offered money to build a bigger factory, hire more people, distribute throughout the state. Eleanor thanked him, but refused. I want to keep the business a size I can control, she explained. It's not about making the most money. It's about doing things the right way. The investor left confused, but Eleanor was at peace with her decision. Jennifer didn't call anymore. It had been a month since her last visit. Eleanor thought of her every day but didn't call. She'd given an ultimatum and needed to stick to it. But then, on a Thursday afternoon, the red car appeared again. Eleanor was in the shed supervising a batch of sweets when she heard the engine. Her heart raced. She wiped her hands and went to the entrance. Jennifer got out of the car, but something was different. She wasn't wearing a suit. She had on jeans and a simple blouse. Her hair was in a messy ponytail, no elaborate makeup. Hi, Mom. Hi, Jennifer. The two looked at each other. It was Jennifer who broke the silence. I thought a lot about what you said. You're right. About everything. Come in. Let's talk. They sat on the porch as they had done so many times years ago, when Jennifer was still a child and things were simpler. I was wrong, Jennifer began, about so many things. Leaving you here, assuming you couldn't take care of yourself. Only showing up when I saw there was money involved. Go on. And worse than all of that was never asking about your life, about your stories. You said you worked making sweets when Dad got sick. I want to know about that. I want to know about you. Eleanor felt something loosen in her chest. Why now? What changed? Jennifer looked at her own hands. My company went bankrupt, officially. Last week I signed the closure papers. Oh, Jennifer. No, let me finish. At first I was devastated. 15 years of work down the drain. But you know when I started to feel relieved? When I realized I was free from a weight I'd placed on my own shoulders. She looked at Eleanor. I spent my whole life trying to prove something. To myself, to the world. I built a huge company, became rich, important, and I was miserable. You were right about money not being everything. What are you going to do now? I don't know. I came here to apologize for real. And to ask if there's still a place for me in your life. Not in the business. In your life. Eleanor reached out and touched her daughter's face. There's always been a place, my daughter. Always. Jennifer broke down in tears. Eleanor hugged her, letting years of distance and hurt dissolve in that moment. When they finally separated, Eleanor asked, "How long can you stay?" "As long as you want me around. Then you'll need more comfortable clothes. Working with sweets requires clothes you can get dirty." Jennifer laughed through her tears. "Are you saying I can work with you? I'm saying you can learn from me like an apprentice if you're willing. Mom, I have experience with companies. I can help with—" Eleanor raised her hand. "As an apprentice, Jennifer, from the bottom. Learning how things work here, my way, it's not negotiable." Jennifer took a deep breath, then nodded. "Okay, when do I start?" "Tomorrow, 5 in the morning." 5 in the... Jennifer started to protest, then laughed. "Okay, 5 in the morning." That night, Jennifer had dinner with her mother for the first time in months. A simple meal, rice, beans, chicken with okra. But they really talked. Eleanor told stories from her youth, about hard times, about small joys. Jennifer listened, really listened, for the first time in her life. "Why did you never tell me these things before?" she asked. "You never asked." The words hung in the air, a simple and painful truth. "I'll do things differently from now on," Jennifer promised. "I'll make sure you do." They laughed together. At 5 the next morning, Eleanor woke Jennifer. Her daughter got up complaining about the cold, but went. "First lesson," said Eleanor in the kitchen. "Good sweets start with good ingredients. Let's go to the market to pick the fruits." They drove to the city. Jennifer had never paid attention to how to choose fruits. Eleanor taught her how to see if it's ripe, how to feel the texture, how to evaluate the smell. "This is science," murmured Jennifer, impressed. "It's experience." They came back loaded. Jennifer helped carry the boxes, complaining she was out of shape. "The gym isn't for carrying real weight," joked Eleanor. The second lesson was preparing the fruits, washing, peeling, cutting, manual, repetitive, tiring work. "How long do we do this?" asked Jennifer after an hour. "Until it's done." It was 2 hours of work. Jennifer's hands hurt. She wasn't used to it. The third lesson was the right consistency. How to know when the sweet is ready. Not by time, but by texture, color, consistency. "There's no exact recipe," explained Eleanor. "Each batch is different. It depends on the fruit, the day, the temperature. You need to feel it." "How will I feel it?" "By doing. By making mistakes. By learning." Jennifer burned the first batch. The second was too soft. The third was almost right, but not exactly. "I'm terrible at this," she complained, frustrated. "You're on your third day. Be patient with yourself." Patience. When was the last time Jennifer had been patient with anything? The weeks went by. Jennifer worked every day alongside her mother. She learned to stir the pot, to pack the jars, to calculate how much to produce. But more importantly, she learned to listen. She listened to Eleanor's stories. She listened to the neighbors who came to help. She listened to the silence of the countryside on starry nights. Susan became a kind of second mother, telling funny stories and giving unsolicited advice. "You seem lighter," she commented one day. "I feel lighter," admitted Jennifer. 1 month after her return, Jennifer finally managed to make a perfect batch of milk candy. Eleanor tasted it and smiled. "It's perfect, Insa." "Really?" "Really. You've learned." Jennifer felt a pride she had never felt for any $1 million contract she had closed. But the real turning point came when an important buyer appeared. She was an elegant woman from New York City, owner of a chain of gourmet product stores. "I tasted your sweets in a local store here," she told Eleanor. "I want to propose a partnership, distribution in all my 20 stores in the state." The amount offered was substantial, much more than Eleanor was currently earning. "I need to think," she replied. When the woman left, Jennifer exploded, "Mom! You can't turn this down. It's an incredible opportunity. It's too big. We couldn't maintain quality with such high production. We could. We just need to hire more people, buy better equipment." Eleanor shook her head. "And lose control? Turn this into a soulless production line?" "But the money. Money isn't everything, Jennifer. I thought you'd learned that." Jennifer took a deep breath. She was going to argue, but stopped. She thought, really thought about what her mother was saying. "You're right," she finally admitted. "I'm sorry." "Old habits." Eleanor smiled. "Old habits die hard, but you're trying. That's what matters." They declined the offer, but negotiated a smaller version. Supply for 5 stores, a quantity they could maintain without compromising quality. The woman reluctantly accepted, but accepted. "You're crazy for turning down my first offer," she said, "but I respect it." When she left, Eleanor and Jennifer looked at each other and laughed. "We just turned down a lot of money," said Jennifer. "We just kept our integrity," corrected Eleanor. More weeks passed. The relationship between mother and daughter deepened every day. Conversations they had avoided for years finally happened. One evening, sitting on the porch, Jennifer asked, "Mum, do you regret anything in life?" Eleanor thought for a long time. "I regret staying silent so many times, not defending my space, letting myself be defined only as a wife and mother, with no identity of my own." "But you loved Dad." "I did love him, very much. But I could love him and still be my own person. It took me 83 years to understand that." "And me? Do you regret raising me the way you did?" "I never regret you, but I regret not teaching you some things, like valuing manual work, understanding that success isn't just money. How to be kind." Jennifer lowered her head. "I'm not a good person, am I?" "You weren't, but you're becoming one. That's what matters." They sat in silence, listening to the crickets. "Mum, can I ask you a difficult question?" "Always. Have you forgiven me for leaving you here?" Eleanor held her daughter's hand. "I forgave you a long time ago, my dear. But you know what's more important? Are you forgiving yourself?" Jennifer let the tears flow freely. "Not yet, but I'm trying." "Then keep trying. One day you will." 3 months after being abandoned in the countryside, Eleanor had a thriving business, a dedicated team, and her daughter back in her life for real. But the biggest change wasn't in the sales numbers or the family reconciliation. It was in how she saw herself. She was no longer just Richard's widow or Jennifer's mother. She was Eleanor, businesswoman, candy maker, independent woman. At 83, she had discovered who she was. One afternoon, while stirring a batch of guava paste, Susan commented, "You know, Mrs. Eleanor, you're an inspiration to all of us." "Inspiration? Why?" "Because you proved it's never too late. My daughter said she wants to go back to school because of you. If you could start a business at 83, she can finish college at 40. Eleanor was moved. "She should definitely study. Knowledge is power." That's what I said. But she needed to see it with her own eyes. This conversation made Eleanor think, how many other women were living in silence, accepting limited roles, believing they weren't capable. She decided to do something about it. She organized a meeting at her house with women from the village. Nearly 20 came. They talked about shelved dreams, hidden talents, unexplored possibilities. One of them, 68-year-old Mrs. Miller, revealed she had always wanted to sew clothes. But my husband thought it was silly, said I already had enough work at home. "And now?" asked Eleanor. "Does he still think it's silly?" "He passed away last year." "Then your time has come. Let's find a way for you to start." From that meeting, an informal cooperative was born, each woman contributing with her talent. One sewed, another crocheted, another painted. Eleanor coordinated and helped with the sales part. Jennifer watched everything with growing admiration. "You're changing these people's lives," she said. "I'm giving them what they gave me, a chance." Eleanor's business continued growing organically and sustainably, but she never lost sight of what mattered: quality, integrity, community. 6 months after her forced arrival in the countryside, she received an unexpected invitation. A university from the capital wanted her to give a lecture on entrepreneurship in later life. "Me? A lecture?" She laughed nervously. "I barely know how to speak in public." "You know how to tell stories," said Jennifer. "It's the same thing." With her daughter's help, Eleanor prepared her presentation. Not elaborate slides or complex charts, just her story told with honesty. On the day of the lecture, she was so nervous she almost gave up. Jennifer held her hand. "You can do it, Mum. Just be yourself." The auditorium was packed. Over 200 people, mostly women over 60. Eleanor went up on stage with her legs shaking. She looked at the audience. She saw hopeful, curious faces. She took a deep breath and began. "Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. My name is Eleanor Jenkins. I'm 83 years old, and 6 months ago my daughter left me in a house in the countryside with 2 weeks of supplies and no explanation other than, 'I need to sort out my life.'" Nervous laughter from the audience. "That first night, sitting alone in the dark because the power had gone out, I cried. I cried out of anger, out of fear, out of loneliness. I thought my life was over, that I was a burden to my daughter, that I wasn't good for anything anymore. Absolute silence now. But the next day something strange happened. I woke up and thought, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to make it worthwhile. And I started making sweets. Not because I had a plan, not because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but because it was the only thing I knew how to do well." She told about the first batches, the mistakes, the successes, the first sale at the farmer's market, the gradual growth of the business. "People ask me what my secret to success was. And you know what it is? Having no alternative. When you have no choice, you discover strengths you didn't know you had." More laughter, a few more tears in the audience. But the real lesson wasn't about building a business. It was about finding myself. For 83 years I was defined by others. Daughter, wife, mother. All important roles. Don't get me wrong. But I was never just Eleanor. I never knew who I was without those labels. She looked at Jennifer in the front row. And my daughter, who's here today, gave me the greatest gift without knowing it. She gave me loneliness, she gave me challenge, she gave me necessity. And through all that, she gave me the opportunity to discover myself. Jennifer had tears streaming down her face. So to all of you here who think it's too late, who think you've passed your prime, who think your best days are behind you, I say, you're wrong. Your best day could be tomorrow, or the day after, or 10 years from now. Eleanor finished her lecture to emotional applause. Several women came to speak with her afterward, telling their own stories of late, fresh starts or postponed dreams. A 70-year-old woman squeezed her hand tightly. "Thank you. You gave me the courage to start that bakery I've always wanted." Driving back home in the car, Jennifer was silent. "Are you okay?" asked Eleanor. "I'm thinking about everything you said, about me giving you loneliness and necessity. It wasn't a gift, it was cruelty. It was both. Intention doesn't change the outcome. You were cruel, but the result was liberating." "Still, Jennifer, stop punishing yourself. You made a mistake. You acknowledged it. You changed. That's all we can do." Jennifer wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. "I don't deserve you as a mother. No one deserves anyone. We just have people, and we decide every day whether we'll honor that relationship or not." They arrived home in the late afternoon. Susan had prepared dinner for everyone. The entire team was there, celebrating the success of the lecture that had been streamed live on social media. "You've gone viral again, Mrs. Eleanor," shouted Deborah, showing her phone. "Viral? I still don't quite know what that means." "It means thousands of people have watched and shared your speech." Eleanor shook her head, amazed by this digital world she still didn't fully understand. They had dinner together on the porch. It was a hot summer night. The cicadas were singing loudly. Stars shone intensely in the clear sky. "You know what I've noticed?" said Jennifer suddenly. "In New York City, I never saw stars. I thought there weren't any anymore. But they were always there. I just couldn't see them." "That's a good metaphor," commented Mr. Wilson. "Sometimes we don't see what's right in front of us because there's too much pollution in the way." "Pollution of what kind?" asked Susan. "Of worry, of hurry, of thinking everything needs to be fast and big and important." Eleanor looked at her daughter with pride. She was really learning. More months passed. The business stabilized at a comfortable size. It wasn't an empire, it didn't make millions. but it generated enough profit for everyone to live well and be proud of their work. Jennifer became an integral part of the team, not as a leader, but as a collaborator. She learned to make every type of sweet. She even developed some original recipes, combining her mother's tradition with modern techniques. "This sea salt caramel is amazing," praised Eleanor, tasting her daughter's creation. "I learned from the best." "No. You took what you learned and created something new. It's different, it's better." One day an unexpected proposal arrived. A former business consultant named William appeared. He was an elegant man of about 70. "Eleanor? Eleanor Wright?" Eleanor froze. Wright was her maiden name. She hadn't used it in decades. "William Parker?" she finally recognized. "You remember?" "How could I forget?" Jennifer watched the interaction with curiosity. William had been Eleanor's suitor in their youth. Son of wealthy farmers, he had proposed marriage when she was 22. "I heard about your business. I came to see it in person," he explained. They talked on the porch while Jennifer prepared coffee, discreetly watching from the kitchen. "Why did you refuse my proposal back then?" asked William. "I really wanted to marry you. You wanted a decorative wife. I knew that wouldn't be me." "How could you be so sure?" "Because you said I wouldn't need to worry about anything, that you would take care of everything, that I would be a queen in my castle." William laughed. "Did I really say that?" "You did. And in that moment I realized you didn't see who I really was. You saw a version you had created in your head." "And did Richard see?" Eleanor thought. "In the beginning he didn't either, but unlike you he learned to see. We grew together." "I miss that. I never married, you know." "Why?" "Because after you everyone seemed lacking. Ironically, I ended up living the life I wanted you to live, alone in a castle." They talked for hours. William told her about his career as a consultant, traveling the world, building a fortune, but always feeling like something was missing. "And now you're here, May," said Eleanor. "Doing what exactly?" "I came to see you, and I came to offer my services, free of charge." "What kind of services?" "Business consulting. You have a promising business, but it's too informal. You could professionalize some things without losing the essence." Eleanor was suspicious. "Why would you do this for free?" "Because 60 years ago, I refused to see who you really were. Now I want to fix that, even if it's very late." Jennifer, who had joined them, looked at her mother with raised eyebrows, waiting for her decision. "Give me an example of what you would change," Eleanor asked. William took a notebook from his bag. "Your pricing system is based on intuition. It works, but you're leaving money on the table. Second, your distribution logistics could be optimized by at least 30%. Third, you have no financial reserve for emergencies." They were valid points. Eleanor looked at Jennifer. "What do you think?" "I think he's right about the points, but I think you need to decide if you want his help specifically." "Why not?" "Because there's no such thing as a free lunch, Mom. He wants something." William laughed. "Your daughter is smart, and she's right. I want something." "What?" asked Eleanor. "Your friendship. Nothing more. Loneliness is a terrible thing, Eleanor. I have enough money to live 10 lives, but I have no one to share a coffee with." The man's brutal honesty disarmed Eleanor. "All right, you can help us, but Jennifer will supervise everything. She understands these things." "Perfect." And that's how William became part of the group. 3 times a week, he showed up to work on what he called the gentle professionalization of the business. He and Eleanor rediscovered a friendship that could have been decades ago. But it was better this way, they said. Now they were complete people, not young people seeking completeness in each other. "You would have been unhappy with me," William admitted one day. "I was too arrogant. I needed decades of stumbles to become bearable. And I was too insecure. I would have become bitter if I lived in a golden cage." They laughed together. Jennifer watched all this carefully. She saw how her mother had built not just a business, but a network of genuine relationships. Each person there had a role. Each one contributed. It wasn't hierarchical. It was circular. "This is real leadership," she commented to William one day. "Yes, without ego, just service. I never knew how to lead like that, because they taught you that leading was dominating. It's a lie. Leading is serving. The lessons kept coming for Jennifer. Every day she learned something new. Not about business, but about life. 1 year after being left in the countryside, Eleanor received an official visit. The town's mayor appeared with a proposal. They wanted to honor her as Citizen of the Year. Mrs. Eleanor, you have inspired many women in the region to start businesses. You created jobs, you strengthened the local economy. You deserve recognition. Eleanor was embarrassed. I just made sweets. I didn't do anything special. You did much more than sweets. You built community. The ceremony took place on a Friday night in the central square. Hundreds of people attended. Eleanor went up on stage shyly, but Jennifer was in the front row giving support. I didn't prepare a speech, Eleanor began, but I want to say one thing. Everything I achieved was because others helped me. Susan, who brought me the first cake. Mr. Wilson, who gave me a ride to the farmer's market. Deborah, who taught me how to formalize the business. William, who professionalized my management. She paused. And my daughter Jennifer, who, without knowing it, gave me the greatest gift, the necessary loneliness for me to find myself. Jennifer stood up, applauding with tears on her face. Others followed. Soon everyone was on their feet. After the ceremony there was a gathering. Jennifer approached with a serious expression. Mom, I need to tell you something. The tone made Eleanor worried. What is it? I received a job offer in New York City. Eleanor's heart tightened. And are you going to accept? I don't know, it's a good company, good salary, but I would be the old me again, rushing, no time to see the stars. And without your mother. That too. Eleanor held her daughter's hands. Jennifer, you're 42 years old. You can't live in the countryside with me forever. You need to make your own life. But I like it here. I like the work. I like the people. I like waking up slowly and watching the sunrise. Then don't go. But it's an opportunity. An opportunity for what? To make more money. Haven't you learned that money isn't everything? Jennifer smiled through tears. I have. I think I just needed to hear you say it. Then stay, but not for me. Stay because it's where you want to be. I do, very much. They hugged right there in the middle of the crowded square. More months passed. Life in the countryside found its own rhythm, waking with the sun, working with their hands, laughing with neighbors, family dinners, falling asleep gazing at stars. Jennifer developed her own line of modern sweets, which sold very well among the younger crowd. Eleanor kept the traditional recipes. Together they covered all audiences. The business prospered to the point where they bought the lot next door and expanded the facilities. They built a professional kitchen, but kept the original copper pot in a place of honor. This is where it all began, Eleanor explained to visitors. We can't forget our origins. One day, William came with news. I found out something interesting. This property is in a hot area for real estate development. You could sell it for a fortune. Eleanor didn't even blink. I'm not selling. But it's a lot of money, Eleanor. You could retire in style. I'm already retired and in style, surrounded by people I love, doing what I enjoy. William smiled. I knew you'd say that, but I had to try. Why did you try? Because a good consultant presents all the options, and a good friend accepts when you choose happiness over money. 2 years after being left in the countryside, Eleanor woke up on her 85th birthday to find the house decorated. Jennifer, Susan, Wilson, Deborah, William, and dozens of others were there. Surprise! They shouted. There was cake, music, gifts. But the best gift came last. Jennifer handed her an envelope. Open it. Inside were documents. Eleanor read them with difficulty, needing glasses. It's a partnership agreement, Jennifer explained. Official, legal, registered. Partnership? Grandma Ruth's Sweets and Daughter, Inc. A 50-50 partnership. You as CEO, me as Chief Operating Officer. Eleanor began to cry. Are you sure? Don't you want to be CEO? Absolutely, you built this, you deserve the recognition. And I still have a lot to learn. They signed the documents right there, with everyone as witnesses. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. The party lasted late into the night. Eleanor danced an old waltz with William. She hugged every person present. She thanked each one for the role they played in her journey. When everyone had left and only mother and daughter remained, they sat on the porch as they did every night. "Are you happy, Mom?" asked Jennifer. "More than I ever imagined I could be. No regrets. Only that I didn't start sooner, but we can't change the past, only build the future." They sat in silence, listening to the night. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Have you really forgiven me, truly?" Eleanor looked at her daughter. "Jennifer, if you hadn't left me here, I never would have found myself. I never would have discovered my strength. I never would have built all this. So yes, I've forgiven you, and I'm even thankful. But I did it for the wrong reasons. Reasons matter for moral judgment, but results matter for life. You hurt me, but you also set me free. Both things are true. I love you, Mom. I don't know if I say that enough. She says it more now than before. That's what matters." They hugged under the starry sky. 3 years had passed since that fateful day when the red car left Eleanor alone in the countryside. 3 years of transformation, growth, pain, overcoming, and love. The business had stabilized at a perfect size, 15 permanent employees, supplying 30 stores in the region, production of 5 tons of sweets per month, enough profit for everyone to live comfortably. But more important than the numbers were the lives touched. Each employee had her own story of transformation. Mrs. Miller opened her sewing shop. Susan started selling her own products. Other women in the village started their own businesses, inspired by Eleanor. "You've created a quiet revolution," William said one day. "No, I just showed them it's possible. They did the rest." Jennifer had become a completely different person, calmer, more present, more human. She still had difficult days, moments of anxiety, the urge to control everything. But she learned to let go, to trust, to be. She met a man from the village, a retired teacher named Michael. They started dating without rush, without pressure, just enjoying each other's company. "You're different," Eleanor commented, seeing them together. "I'm being myself for the first time," Eleanor smiled. "It's liberating, isn't it?" "Very." Eleanor's story ended up being told in a national magazine. Then, on a television program, she became a symbol of reinvention in later life. She received invitations for more speaking engagements. Some she accepted, others she declined. She learned to pace herself, not to be consumed by success. "Fame is an illusion," she would say. "Real connection is what matters." One special morning, Eleanor woke up with an idea. She gathered the team. "I want to do something different. I want to open a free entrepreneurship course for women over 60. "Here?" asked Susan. "Yes, monthly, teaching not just about sweets, but about business, about believing in yourself, about starting over." The idea was met with enthusiasm. William helped structure the course. Jennifer handled the publicity. Deborah lent the church space for the classes. The first course had 20 students, women of all ages, stories and dreams. Eleanor taught with passion, not just techniques but philosophy. Entrepreneurship isn't about getting rich. It's about owning your own time, your own destiny. The classes took place on Saturdays. Afterwards, everyone had dinner together. They shared stories, built bonds. 6 months later, 3 students had opened their own businesses, small, but their own. "You changed my life," said one of them, Mrs. Roberts, 71 years old, who had opened a small organic garden. "You changed your own life. I just gave the little nudge." Years kept passing. Eleanor was aging but not slowing down. At 87, she still worked every day, but had delegated more responsibilities. Jennifer and Michael got married in a simple ceremony in the backyard. Eleanor cried with joy seeing her daughter finally find peace. William became practically part of the family. He had dinner with them 3 times a week. He had a deep affection for Eleanor, but never romantic. They were journey companions, not bed companions. "I think we're soulmates of a different kind," he said once. "What kind?" "The kind that completes each other through friendship, not romance." "I agree. Romantics exaggerate. True friendship is rarer and more valuable." One day, Eleanor received an unexpected call. It was from a producer wanting to make a documentary about her story. "I don't know," she hesitated. "Mom, it could inspire many people," Jennifer encouraged. "Or it could seem like I'm showing off." "You've shared your story in talks. It's the same thing." Eleanor finally agreed. The crew spent a month filming. They interviewed Jennifer, the employees, customers, and people from the village. When the documentary premiered at a film festival, it won the award for Best Short Film. It was later picked up by a streaming platform. Suddenly, Eleanor's story was being seen by millions. With fame came more opportunities, but also more pressure. "They're offering money to turn your business into a franchise," Jennifer told her. "No, Mom, it's a lot of money." "Jennifer, how many times do we need to have this conversation? Money doesn't run my life." "I know, I'm sorry. Old habits again." But Jennifer was right about one thing. They needed to protect what they had built. With William, they set up a foundation. Part of the profits would go toward teaching other women how to start businesses. "Your legacy," said William. "Not in money, but in knowledge passed on." Eleanor liked the idea. The foundation started small, 5 scholarships per semester for low-income women to learn trades. But it grew. In 2 years, it had already helped over 100 women start their own businesses. "Each one of them will help another," Eleanor would say. "It's like planting trees. I won't see all the fruit, but I know it will be there." At 90 years old, Eleanor decided it was finally time to truly slow down. She handed over the daily management to Jennifer, but remained active as an advisor. "Are you sure?" her daughter asked. "Absolutely. It's your time." "But what if I mess everything up?" "You won't. And if you do, you fix it. That's how you learn." Jennifer took over with apprehension but determination. She was afraid she wouldn't be good enough, of disappointing her mother, of destroying the legacy. But Eleanor was always there, not to control, but to support. "Trust yourself," she advised. "I do." And Jennifer began to discover her own leadership style, different from her mother's, but equally effective, more structured, more technological, but keeping the essence of care and community. She implemented new systems, expanded into online sales, created partnerships with other cooperatives in the region. The business evolved, but didn't lose its character. "You're doing better than I did," Eleanor admitted one day. "Not better, different, and I only can because you built the foundation." A special day arrived. It was the 10th anniversary of Grandma Ruth's Sweets and Daughter. 10 years since Eleanor had been left in the countryside. 10 years since it all began. They organized a big party. They invited everyone who had been part of the journey. The entire village attended. People from other towns, former students from the course, past and present employees. In the middle of the party, they asked for silence. Jennifer climbed onto the makeshift stage. 10 years ago, I made the worst mistake of my life. I abandoned my mother here, thinking only of myself. But that mistake, by some miracle, turned into a blessing. She looked at Eleanor in the audience. My mother not only survived, she flourished. At 83, she started from scratch. She built a business, created jobs, transformed lives, and taught me the true meaning of strength. A pause to control her emotion. Today, 10 years later, I want to do something I should have done from the start. Jennifer came down from the stage and knelt in front of her mother, under the emotional gaze of everyone. Mum, will you forgive me? Truly, from the bottom of my heart, will you forgive me for abandoning you? Eleanor, with tears streaming down, lifted her daughter up. I forgave you a long time ago, my daughter, and I thank you every day for what you, unintentionally, gave me. You gave me myself. They embraced amid emotional applause. When they separated, Eleanor asked for the microphone. There's something I need to say, to everyone here, especially to the women. She looked around, seeing attentive faces. For 83 years I lived believing my life had been insignificant. I was a good wife, a good mother, but I always felt something was missing. As if I hadn't left my mark on the world. When I was left here, I thought it was the end, that I had been discarded because I was no longer useful. But you know what I discovered? The end of one thing is the beginning of another. Always. At 83, I started my real life. I discovered who Eleanor was, not Richard's wife, not Jennifer's mother, just Eleanor, and she was incredible, strong, capable, creative. Her voice trembled with emotion. So to every woman here who thinks her life is over, that her best days are behind her, that she no longer has value, I say, you are mistaken, completely mistaken. Your next chapter could be your best, your next decade could be your most productive, your next love could be your truest. It is never, never too late to become who you were meant to be. Applause echoed through the night. Women hugged each other. Some cried. Others laughed. All were moved. The party continued until dawn. Music, dancing, stories, genuine joy. When the sun began to rise, Eleanor and Jennifer were sitting on the porch, tired, but happy. "Mom, can I ask you one last question?" "Last? I hope not. But go ahead. If you could go back in time, would you change anything?" Eleanor thought for a long moment. "You know what? I wouldn't. Every pain brought me here, every mistake, every success. If I changed something, I might not have reached this exact place, and this place is perfect. Even with all the suffering taught me, the joy rewarded me. I need both to be complete." They watched the sun rising over the property, the same property where Eleanor had been left 10 years earlier, but everything was different now. Not just the place, but they themselves. "You know what's funny?" said Eleanor. "When you left me here, I thought I was being punished, but actually I was being set free. How could I have known I was giving you a gift? You couldn't, and it wasn't your intention, but intention doesn't change the outcome. You set me free, and I thank you." Jennifer rested her head on her mother's shoulder. "I love you more than I can express." "I know, daughter, and you know I love you too." They stayed like that for a while, just being mother and daughter, without hurt, without resentment, just love. The years kept passing. Eleanor reached 95, still active, still present, still teaching. The business thrived under Jennifer's management. The foundation had helped over 1,000 women. The free course had spread to 5 cities. But Eleanor's greatest legacy wasn't in the numbers. It was in the transformed lives, in the women who looked at her and thought, if she could do it, so can I. One morning, Eleanor woke up and knew her time was near. It wasn't fear. It was just knowledge. Her body was telling her. She called Jennifer. "My daughter, I need you to promise me one thing." "Anything, Mum." "When I'm gone, don't stop. Continue the work. Keep helping women discover themselves. Keep proving that it's never too late." "Mom, don't talk like that." "I need to. I'm 95. I've lived longer than I imagined, and every extra year was a gift. But I need you. You have everything you need inside you. I just helped you find it." "Just like I did for myself," Jennifer cried, but she promised. Eleanor lived 3 more years, 3 years full of meaning, love, and purpose. When she finally passed, it was in peace. Sleeping on the porch, looking at the stars she loved so much. The funeral was huge. Hundreds of people attended, not to mourn but to celebrate. Each one told a story of how Eleanor had touched their lives, how she had inspired, how she had changed everything. Jennifer, despite the pain, managed to speak. "My mother taught me that the end of one thing is the beginning of another. Her passing is painful, but her legacy is just beginning." And it was. The foundation expanded. The course reached more cities. The documentary continued to inspire. Eleanor Jenkins' story became legendary, but more importantly, every woman who heard her story and decided to start over, that was Eleanor's true immortality. Years later, Jennifer, now in her early 60s, welcomed a young entrepreneur into her home. "How did you begin all this?" the young woman asked. Jennifer smiled and told the story of how her mother was abandoned in the countryside and turned abandonment into opportunity, loneliness into community, pain into purpose. "And you know what's most amazing," she concluded. "I, who abandoned, learned just as much as she, who was abandoned. I discovered it's never too late to change, to ask for forgiveness, to start anew." The young woman listened intently. "Your mother was incredible." She was. And she is. Because people like her never truly die. They live on in stories, in the lives they've touched, in the changes they've caused. Jennifer glanced at the portrait of Eleanor on the wall. It had been taken on her 90th birthday. She was holding a jar of dulce de leche, smiling. "Thank you, Mother," she whispered, "for everything." And somewhere, perhaps in the stars that Eleanor so loved to gaze at, an answer echoed, "Don't thank me, daughter. Thank yourself. You also reinvented yourself. You also found your way. I am proud." And so ends our story, the story of Eleanor Jenkins, who at 83 was abandoned in the countryside and transformed that abandonment into the greatest adventure of her life. She proved it's never too late to begin, never too late to discover yourself, never too late to leave your mark on the world. Her daughter Jennifer learned that success isn't measured in money, but in lives touched. That love without respect is empty. That forgiveness frees the one who forgives more than the one who is forgiven. And all the women who came to know her story learned the most important lesson. You are stronger than you think, more capable than you believe, more valuable than the world has led you to believe. Eleanor's legacy continues, in every sweet made with love, in every woman who decides to start over, in every person who chooses to create something beautiful from pain. Because in the end, it doesn't matter how we start. It matters how we turn our beginnings into something extraordinary. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this story and where you're watching from. Do you think Eleanor made the right decision by refusing to expand the business too much? We'd love to read your opinion in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to leave your like. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories.